This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and CEO of Greenlight Metals, Mr. Matt Filgate. Matt, it's great to have you on. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Gerardo. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate you taking some time to chat.
No, listen, let me start by being completely transparent as I always am. I am very biased on Greenlight. I am a shareholder. I have been a shareholder since the company was private. I
Mhm.
haven't sold a single share. And despite the company having some incredible properties in Wisconsin and me being a Cub fan, I'm going to be a long-term shareholder and supportive shareholder because I don't think, and I said this to you off air, I don't think the market appreciates the first mover advantage that you have in this part of the country. And so I want to start there before we get into your background, but I want to start with you maybe providing an overview of how you were able to put this portfolio of properties together when no one was looking and why no one was looking. And then let's talk about why I think we're going to do phenomenally well with Greenlight.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think for context for the viewers, Wisconsin is a very interesting political landscape, right? So it we call it a purple state. So it's either Democratic or Republican. It flips back and forth, right? So the history of the state has seen times of pretty intense exploration. So the 70s, 80s, lots of companies there exploring. Into the 90s when Rio Tinto put their Flambeau mine into production, which was a very successful mine. And then in 1997, unfortunately, a mining moratorium was implemented in the state, and that was a reaction to the Crandon deposit. So the Crandon deposit was a big discovery made by BHP that that went through trials and tribulations of permitting, community engagement, and ended up actually, it got permitted, but it ended up having a big contested case hearing that fought it in court. And I think the ultimate outcome of that was the state wasn't ready for this type of industry. So they implemented this mining moratorium. It was actually more of a prove it first concept.
Hmm.
So they wanted these mining companies to have a track record and a strong environmental track record. So having proved it before they would let them come in and mine. And that stalled or stopped all mining and mineral exploration in the state. So to answer your question, how did we go out and how did we end up with all these incredible prospects and assets in Wisconsin? Well, the company Aquila Resources, who was our predecessor,
Yep.
ultimately they were acquired by Gold Resource Corp, had these assets and had been acquiring these assets probably starting in 2008, 2009, and held them in the background as they discovered the Back 40 project, which sits in the same geological terrain, but about 4 miles on the Michigan side of the border. And so there was a little bit of work done in 2011, 2012. They drilled our Reef project, which is our gold project. They drilled the Ben project, which is our flagship asset, and it's what we're launching our drill program on next week.
Hmm.
So very timely that we get to
Yeah.
chat right now because this is a major catalyst for the company. Um, and so, yeah, they held those and they did a little bit of work on them, but the mining moratorium was in place until 2017. So there was really no path forward for Aquila to advance these projects and see a road to production on them. So Back 40 became their flagship asset. They're focused on that. They ultimately transacted on that with Gold Resource Corp, and the assets in Wisconsin were put into a private company, held in a private company for many years. That private company ultimately became Greenlight Metals, and so that's where we're at today. We took the company public, listed in April on the TSXV, and I have been working hard to get drills on the ground. So that leads up to where we're at today. We're starting exploration, the first program in Wisconsin since 2011, 2012, but in a completely different political jurisdiction now. So Wisconsin is open for business in 2017 when the mining moratorium was repealed. They put new infrastructure in place in the state to allow for projects to advance, to get permitted. So a complete permitting overhaul. And so we see it now as a very favorable jurisdiction. And we're seeing a lot of support from a
Yeah.
township level, county level, all the way up to a statewide level. So we're feeling very excited about this. We have these projects, these incredible assets, and now we get to go out and actually do the exploration. And that's where we start to create shareholder value.
So here's what I love, and I'm going to start with Bend because I don't want to overwhelm the audience with a description of all the projects, but I do
Yeah,
want to provide context for Bend. It's a copper gold project with
correct.
drilling days away, but importantly, it's a VMS deposit, and this regionally is critical, I believe, and why I believe Greenlight will be so successful with the infrastructure that was put in, and with VMS deposits never being one-offs, right? They tend
Yeah.
to come in clusters,
Yeah,
and with
absolutely.
the region already having both public and private mines that either are past producing and have been reclaimed, or are producing or will be producing now that the moratorium has been lifted.
Yeah.
The Ben Copper Gold project being 100% owned, being VMS, being copper gold, with gold at 3,500, with copper looking to make brand new all-time highs, and you already having a historic resource and significant drill intercepts from prior drilling, you're not going in blind with the drill rig. So
No.
can you talk about Bend and why this thing is frankly, it's the reason I'm holding all my shares. I can't wait for the
Yeah.
results.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's work done there back in the early 90s and then again in 2011, 2012. It has a historic resource of 4 million tons, averaging 2% copper, 2.3 grams per ton. So around 4% copper equivalent. So very, very nice grades. But majority of that drilling was done in a 330-meter area. So there's a private land parcel that sat along strike. The previous operators in the 90s could never get access to it. We were able to acquire the rights to go drill it. So now we have that land package, which is where we're kicking off our drilling. So really the focus for us right now, and there'll be work that is required to bring some of that historic drill core up into
Sure.
compliance when we do it ultimately do a resource. But right now we want to show upside on the project, and we believe based on the geophysics, which the ore horizon that sits there, the VMS ore horizon travels well, if we look at the VTEM, it travels up, kilometer and a half away. Nice VTEM anomaly. So we believe that the deposit has a lot of upside, can grow significantly. Ultimately our goal is to see this deposit become a 15, 20 plus million ton VMS system. And that starts with the work that we're doing right now. So the step out drilling, testing that VTEM anomaly along strike, showing that upside, and then infilling that ultimately to a resource. And hopefully an economic resource that we can advance through the permitting process in Wisconsin to become a mine one day.
Let's talk about that permitting process. I
Yeah.
know it's not as sexy as copper and gold, but you have really high tellurium concentrations.
Yeah, correct.
And
Yes.
I recall back in 2016 going to Idaho with my friend and business partner, Mr. Nick Hodge, and visiting the Stibnite project.
Yeah.
And it was very similar scenario where it was a past producing project, met some local opposition, and I pontificated for years that the antimony was going to be what finally pushed it across the finish line and really
Absolutely.
was going to help them get that permit granted. That permit was just granted less than a few weeks ago, and so
Yeah.
and of course the antimony now is being embraced. It has gotten a lot of Department of Defense money, and the company's well on its way towards building that project with the financing package just announced here recently. Tell me about the tellurium because again, I know it's not
Mm.
copper, I know it's not gold, but I think it's going to be important down the road.
Yeah, look, it is very important, right? So 40% of the world's tellurium production is used in solar panel manufacturing. And we
Yeah.
just, we saw Rio Tinto do a large deal with one of the largest solar panel manufacturers for their offtake on tellurium. So the Bend project, we always knew there was some tellurium there, but about a year and a half ago, we went back, we resampled 400 individual samples of ore, and we got an average of around 350 grams per ton tellurium. So that's pretty significant, right? When we talk about tellurium in the U.S., there's very few projects that produce tellurium. It's always a byproduct. Most of the time, companies don't do the metallurgy on it to extract it, so it ends up,
Yeah.
going away. We're in a unique situation because tellurium is a critical metal. It's in high demand. They need it for national security, and obviously for the green energy transition. So yeah, look, it adds a different element to the deposit, and this isn't typical in VMS systems to have this high grade tellurium. So we're it's still early. Part
Yeah,
of this drill program, we'll send some samples for some met testing, because obviously we've got to understand what's is it, are these tellurides, are they bonded with the gold,
Sure.
what's kind of the metallurgy of this, and is it extractable? But yeah, it could completely change, the way that people look at this project. So it's an added bonus. Obviously the copper and gold grades are really high, but
yeah.
having that tellurium kicker there, it introduces a complete new element to this VMS system. So we're extremely excited about that. It opens up potential funding from federal government, state government. So yeah, no, it's exciting. It's very exciting.
Love it. What comes after Ben, right? Yeah, I mentioned that you have multiple projects, and I think
Yeah.
we've given Ben a little bit of a introduction there. High grade copper, high grade gold. It's a very simple story. Drilling starts in a couple of days. The drilling contractor has been hired, and crews being mobilized here within a day or two, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the drill crew's coming on Monday, and we should have drills turning Wednesday. So it's all happening in real time. Our secondary asset would be our Lobo and Lobo East projects. So these sit right over near Crandon. And Lobo is a really exciting project. We own it 100%. We actually own the real estate. So we bought that whole land package, about 400 acres. And it's a project that was drilled in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was part of this exploration that was going on with Exxon, looking in that area where they ultimately discovered Crandon. And when they discovered Crandon, it pulled their focus away from Lobo and Lobo East, which is a VTEM anomaly. And so they sit about 25 miles from Crandon, so they're pretty close. And just for your audience, a reminder, Crandon was a discovery by BHP, which is 60 million tons at 1% copper. So one of the largest
Yeah.
undeveloped VMS deposits in the world. Really gives credit to this entire geological Pinokian volcanic belt, and one of the reasons why people were so attracted to it back in the 80s and 90s from an exploration standpoint. But yeah, so Lobo and Lobo East are both, we're building draft permits for them right now. We'll submit them in the next couple of weeks to the Department of Natural Resources here in Wisconsin. And some of the results from Lobo, we're looking at about 9.5 meters of massive sulfide at 23% zinc, 1.7% copper,
Yeah.
1.9% lead, and over a gram per ton gold. So this was a major discovery that was made. They put 6 drill holes into it, hit massive sulfide in every hole, but then ended up focusing on Crandon and leaving it. Crandon was more attractive, and ultimately Crandon turned into a massive deposit. So do we have that here? We might have that, and so that's going to be a big focus for us, kind of going into later this year. We're hoping to be able to start drilling that in November, December, and into 2026. Lobo East is a large VTEM coincident gravity anomaly. Looks very similar to what they drilled at Lobo as far as that anomaly.
Yeah.
So, we think that is a low hanging fruit discovery just waiting to happen. So between those two projects, which, ultimately sit behind Bend in the large scheme of things right now,
Yep.
could add a ton of upside and value, and, could completely shift our focus going to 2026 if we make a big discovery at Lobo East, or prove up that system at Lobo is a lot larger. They only have 6 drill holes into it. So there's a lot of upside there. And that's kind of what excites me right now about Greenlight, is that, we have Bend, which is, we see a path forward there to a really exciting resource, but we also have these other assets with incredible massive sulfide intersects, that just haven't seen exploration, right? And that's partially due to the lack of companies exploring in Wisconsin over the last 40 years. So yeah, it's an exciting portfolio right now. And we're very keen to go and drill these projects and get them moving forward.
No, look, you have 77.9 million shares outstanding, fully diluted.
Yeah.
Management and insiders, y'all have significant skin in the game, 22%, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sorry, 7%.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
actually it's closer to 9%.
okay,
We've been buying active on market. So
good.
yeah, we've been taking larger positions, as we started trading here. 22% institutionally
There
held.
you go.
So that's Vestcor, which is a big fund out of the east coast of Canada. Delbrook
Yep.
is another major shareholder. Both of them are around just over 9%. And then 71% is retail high net worth. But there's about 4 guys of that 71% that own close to 35% of the stock. So we have some very big, high net worth investors that have taken large positions and been buying on market.
You have a tiny market cap. Where's the market cap today?
We're at like 11 million.
Yeah, that's not going to last very long with any kind of success at Bend. I think the timing is absolutely perfect to introduce the story to the audience. Before I let you go, the team is going to be, and pun intended, right? The team is going to be critical here, advancing the projects, moving them forward, monetizing them one day, and eventually getting them built, right? Talk a bit about the team before I let you go, because it's an important component here and a big part of why you were able to have that first mover advantage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've really built out our board of directors to be Wisconsin heavy. So very focused on people that can open doors, whether it's through permitting, community relations, government relations. So Steve Donahue is one of our directors, but he acts as a pseudo VP Wisconsin. So he's heavily involved in the company. So he does town hall meetings. He deals with media. He's a 30-year veteran in the mining space in the upper Midwest. So he's been a part of all these permits, whether it was Flambeau, Crandon, the Back 40 project over in Michigan. He's worked heavily in Minnesota as well. So he knows the politics, he knows the jurisdiction. So he's been huge in bringing, these connections to whether it's state level, whether it's township level, or even county level. He's been a critical part of this. And then on our board of directors, we got Bill Johnson, who, his family's been involved in forestry for the last, 40, 50 years in the state. And so he's got all the connections with, the tribes, the communities, very, very big part of that industry in Wisconsin. So a lot of different people on the board, but they bring a lot of, unique experience related to Wisconsin, and we're all pulling the rope in the same direction. So very, very supportive. And then of course, maybe I'll just give a quick introduction of myself. My background is in mineral exploration. So I've worked as a geologist for the last 14 years. But really, transitioned to the corporate development, capital raising market side when we founded Talisker Resources in 2019, which is a company that, now has a 2 million ounce resource and is currently in production in British Columbia. So, but I bring two aspects to this. I can oversee exploration and help guide the geologists and the targeting, and then the capital markets raising marketing side. So yeah, our team are very strong, and we're very focused on the mission here. And the mission is to bring mining back to Wisconsin. And to do that, we have to go out and we have to start exploring and advancing our projects that we have. And so we've been in a unique situation, having a first mover advantage and being able to come in, handpick the best projects in the state that are available. And look, there's other projects too. We're constantly reviewing old data, and we're going to backfill the pipeline with other projects because there's so many targets in Wisconsin. But right now we're focused on Bend and Lobo East, advancing those projects and making discoveries and building resources.
No, look, I think it's going to be an exciting second half of the year. You likely have a lot of Milwaukee Brewer fans on your board. I won't hold that against you guys. But jokes aside, look, I'm incredibly excited to be a shareholder. I am excited to bring the story to the audience at such an early stage. I'll be honest, folks, you all are buying at a lower price than what my cost basis is. So I think it's a phenomenal entry point. And look, high grade gold and high grade copper in the Midwest, in the US is going to be pretty valuable here moving forward. Matt, absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. Let's do it again once those assays start trickling in and you start seeing some of that core.
Yeah, thanks, Gerardo. I'll have to get you out for a Brewers Cubs game.
I'm out in Chicago every year, so I'll be out there this year. Let's try and connect and make that happen. I'll take you out to Wrigley with me.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks, Gerardo.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.